The quiet felt heavier than any noise. My mother sat across from me, fiddling with her phone, her eyes on the screen, not me. My brother Mike was on a video call, showing his friends the brand new watch he'd just received. It was a watch I'd paid for. My birthday dinner was half-eaten, and there was no cake. The year before, Mike's 25th birthday was a spectacle. My mother rented a banquet hall, ordered a 5-tiered cake, and invited over 100 people. She'd made a whole speech about how proud she was of her son and his promising future. It was a beautiful speech. For him, my own 25th birthday had passed with a single text from her, "Happy birthday." And now for my 26th, this sad little dinner. Just the three of us. The silence stretched. It was a silence filled with everything they hadn't said, and everything I was too tired to ask for. Then Mike looked up from his watch. "Oh, right, happy birthday. You didn't want a party anyway, right?" He said it so casually, so dismissively, as if the question had ever even been asked. As if my desires didn't matter, my feelings weren't a consideration. My mother glanced up for a second, a flicker of something, maybe shame, maybe just annoyance, in her eyes before she went back to her phone. "You're not like him, honey," she said, her voice soft but firm. "You're so self-sufficient. You don't need all that fuss." The word self-sufficient was a double-edged sword. She made it sound like a compliment, but I knew what it meant. It meant I was the one who could be relied on, the one who didn't need to be fussed over. It meant I was the one whose needs could be forgotten. I was the one who was selfish if I ever asked for anything more. I looked down at my plate, and my chest tightened. The food felt like dust. I picked up the plastic cup in front of me, its cheap rim a stark contrast to the fancy glass Mike was using. My hand trembled slightly, but I made sure they didn't see it. This was not the night I had hoped for. It was a humiliation I'd lived my whole life. I finally looked at my mother, then at my brother, then at the empty space where a cake should have been. They didn't even notice the plastic cup trembling in my hand. They were too absorbed in their own celebration. That night, lying awake in bed, I felt a new kind of power rising within me. A cold, hard resolve. I opened my laptop and typed 2 words into the search bar. Lake House. They had always celebrated him. From his first school play to his college graduation, my brother was the star. His wins were family wins. My accomplishments were just expected. Like the time I got my dream job. My parents just nodded and said, "We knew you would." There was no banner. No special dinner. But my job came with something they didn't expect. A serious paycheck. Every year, a massive bonus hit my bank account. A number so large it felt unreal. I had a quiet victory in that. The money was my secret power, a source of pride they never saw. I didn't spend it on lavish things. I saved. I saved with a purpose I couldn't yet name. My bonus check had just cleared. The number on the screen made my stomach flutter with a mix of pride and fear. It was more than they had given me credit for my entire life. I almost felt a rush of false hope, thinking maybe this time it would be different. Maybe this time they would see me. Then the text came from my mother. "Your brother's car broke down again. He needs help with a down payment on a new one." I stared at the screen, the message a cold slap. My phone sat next to a bank statement I had just printed. The huge bonus number mocking me. That money wasn't for me. It was for him. It always had been. Just like it was for his rent last year and his trip to Europe the year before that. The car they'd gifted him was now my problem. The words felt like a tight noose around my neck. I looked at the framed picture on my nightstand. It was an old one of me and Mike when we were kids. He was holding a brightly colored balloon, his face lit up with a huge smile. I was standing next to him, my own smile small and slightly forced. That picture had always felt like a metaphor for my life. I was supposed to be the sensible one, the reliable one. Mike was the one who needed the safety net, who needed to be bailed out. It was a role I was conditioned to accept. But this time, I couldn't. I had my own looming deadline, a mechanic's invoice for a new transmission on my old rattling car, a cost that would drain my savings if I didn't act. A ticking clock. My chest tightened with the pressure. My needs were just as real. The numbers on the page felt like a victory, a secret I held against them. But then the mechanic's invoice came, and I saw how quickly that victory could vanish. What happened next wasn't a choice. It was a promise I made to myself. They had cornered me in the kitchen. My mother, with her hands on her hips, and my brother, leaning against the counter, a look of lazy expectation on his face. The text message from my mom had been direct. She didn't ask. She demanded. Your bonus is due. We need a down payment for Mike's new car. My bonus. It was always my bonus when it was time to pay. Never our money or family money, just a resource to be used for him. I felt the familiar heat rise in my cheeks. But this time, something was different. This time, my own car was still sitting at the mechanic's. I can't, I said. My voice was a whisper, but the word was a fortress. It felt foreign and strange on my tongue. My brother's easy smile fell. My mother's eyebrows knitted together. They stared at me, waiting for me to correct myself, to say I was just kidding. I stood there, refusing to fill the silence. It was my weapon now. I let the tension hang in the air between us, thick and heavy. My brother spoke first, his tone dripping with fake sympathy. Come on, it's for family. You're not being selfish, are you? He said the word so easily, as if he hadn't used it on me a dozen times before. I met his gaze, holding it steady. My own car needs a new transmission. I can't afford to help. My mother scoffed. You? Can't afford it? You're the one with the big corporate job. You're the one with all the money. Mike needs this. He has big dreams. Her words twisted the knife. It was always his dreams, his future, his needs. I was the silent partner, the one who worked so he could play. I just stared at her, saying nothing. Her face hardened, a mask of anger and entitlement settling in. She wasn't used to this. My quiet defiance was a language she didn't understand. Later that week, I found myself in a coffee shop, meeting an old colleague. She had left our company to become an event planner. Her name was Sarah. She was sharp, quick-witted, and she listened with an intensity I wasn't used to. When I told her about my family, she just nodded, her eyes full of empathy. She didn't offer to solve my problems. She offered something better. She slid a sleek black planner across the table, along with a brochure for her company. I don't plan parties, she said, her voice low and calm. I plan futures. Let me know when you're ready to build your own space. She smiled. Her eyes saw something in me I had forgotten. A dream for my own life, not just for theirs. Let me know when you're ready to build your own space. I looked at her, then down at the brochure. It wasn't about a party. It was about a new life. A life where I was the main character. The first step was to say no, and I had said it. I thought my quiet no had ended it. I thought I had set a boundary, and that was that. But in my family, a boundary was just a suggestion, an obstacle to be bulldozed. My mother was about to remind me of that in the most public way possible. The notification popped up on my phone, a new message in the family group chat. My stomach sank. The chat was a place for announcements and thinly veiled demands, and this one was no different. My mother's words were a masterpiece of passive aggression. Just so everyone knows, she wrote, Mike's car broke down again. It's a real burden on us. It's a shame we can't get help from everyone in the family. Some people are just so selfish. The word hung there, glowing on the screen. Selfish. The same word my brother had used. Now it was public. My aunts, uncles, and cousins were all in that group. The silence after her message was deafening. I could practically hear them typing, deleting, and retyping their replies. And then the whispers started. My phone vibrated with messages from cousins. What's going on? Everything okay? But I knew what they were really asking. Why are you being so selfish? The public judgment was swift and cutting, just as my mother intended. She was weaponizing their opinions against me. She was using shame to get what she wanted. A few days later, I was at a community bake sale my mother insisted I attend. She made a point of sighing loudly as she served a slice of pie to a family friend. It's been so stressful, she said, loud enough for me to hear. Trying to help Mike. But some people just don't understand. They're too focused on themselves. The friend nodded knowingly, giving me a small, pitying glance. I could feel the invisible weight of their judgment on me. My mother had already won the court of public opinion. She had broadcast my failure to the whole community. She thought this public shaming would work. She thought the humiliation would make me cave, make me hand over the money just to make the whispers stop. The old me might have. The old me would have done anything to avoid being seen as the bad guy. But as my phone lit up with another message, I looked at a photo I had taken. That morning, the sign for my new lake house, the words still unwritten. The humiliation didn't break me. It was a deadline. It was a final push, a sign that there was no going back to the way things were. My mother wanted me to pay for my brother's future. I decided right then I would pay for my own. My humiliation was just the price of admission. The deed was done. The new plan was set. They thought the public shaming would work. They thought my mother's post would humiliate me into submission. They thought I would crumble, apologize, and hand over the money for my brother's car just to make the gossip stop. But they didn't know the new me. The girl who bought a lake house was not the same girl who took a plastic cup on her birthday. The humiliation didn't break me. It sharpened my focus. I stopped seeing a future where I had to ask for permission. I started building a new one. Quietly, meticulously. I spent the next 2 weeks gathering every single document. My bank ledger, the one showing the exact date and amount of my bonus. My boss's email, confirming my promotion and bonus. The mechanic's invoice, a reminder of the real debt I had to pay. And then, the ultimate proof, the signed deed to the lake house, with my name and my name alone on it. I put everything in a pristine blue file folder. It felt heavy in my hands. A physical representation of my new power. My new life wasn't just about the house. It was about the job, too. I started showing up differently. I was more confident, more direct. My new uniform felt less like a costume and more like armor. It was a symbol of my independence, of a success they never wanted to acknowledge. Then my mother called. Her voice was too sweet, too light. She spoke as if nothing had happened, as if she hadn't just publicly shamed me. "Sweetheart," she said, "I'm so sorry, I was just stressed. You know how it is. It would mean so much if you could reconsider." It was a performance. A calculated move to give me false hope, to make me think she was reaching out with an olive branch. She wanted me to feel relieved, to let my guard down, to hand over the money she thought she was owed. But I wasn't fooled. Her apology was for her, not for me. I gripped the phone tightly and looked at the blue folder on my desk. Everything I needed was right there. I didn't need to say a word. Her apology was a performance, but my silence was an act of power. I finally understood that the most effective way to respond to their chaos was with my own calm, strategic control. I had a plan now, a real one, and it was about to unfold. The family dinner was in full swing, but my mother was steering the conversation. It was a victory lap for her, a chance to show everyone how she was coping with her difficult daughter. She talked loudly about her stress, about Mike's new car, and about how some people just didn't understand family. The others at the table, aunts, uncles, cousins who had seen her WhatsApp message, nodded sympathetically. I just sat there, quiet, a ghost at my own table. A waiter approached, ready to take our order. My mother was about to start, but I held up my hand. She stopped, annoyed, a familiar flash of irritation in her eyes. I took a deep breath. "Before we begin," I said, my voice steady, cutting through the low hum of conversation, "I have an announcement." The table fell into a hush. All eyes were on me. Mike smirked, probably expecting a tearful apology. My mother's mouth was a tight line, but her eyes held a flicker of curiosity. She was used to my compliance. She expected a surrender. "My mother has been telling you all about the burden of my brother's car," I started, "and my unwillingness to help." A few whispers broke out at a nearby table. My mother shifted uncomfortably in her seat. But what she didn't mention was the bonus I received from my job. I pulled a document from my bag. It was my bonus letter, a plain piece of paper, but it held a power they couldn't ignore. It was the biggest bonus in my department. It was more than my brother's new car. A polite, confused murmur spread through the room. My mother opened her mouth to speak, but I was faster. "And what she also didn't mention," I continued, my voice dropping, "was this." I took out the mechanic's invoice for my own car. The pages rustled, a small, dramatic sound in the sudden silence. "This is the bill for my transmission, a new one. It was due last week." My family's faces were a study in shock. They had no comeback. They had no idea I had my own problems, because they never bothered to ask. The lies were unraveling, one by one. But the real reveal was still in my hands. "I decided to use my bonus to pay for something I earned," I said. "Something I needed." I reached into my bag and pulled out the large manila envelope. The room was utterly silent now. I took out the thick, official-looking document and held it up for everyone to see. My brother's easy smirk vanished. My mother's eyes widened. "What is that?" she whispered. But she already knew. I unfolded the deed, a single page that held the key to my freedom. "This," I said, my voice full of triumph, "is the deed to my new lake house." A gasp echoed through the room. I let the silence hang, letting the words sink in. Then I pointed to the bottom of the page, where I'd had a small phrase engraved. The words that changed everything. And you'll notice it says, "My gift. My rules." My mother's face went utterly, completely white. She was speechless. My mother tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. Her mouth opened and closed, a silent gasp. The color was gone from her face. My brother was just staring, his eyes wide, the entitlement in them finally replaced with pure shock. He had lost his free car. They had lost their power. I calmly stood up from the table, my hand still holding the deed. I didn't need to say another word. The truth was there, in the silence, in their stunned faces. I put the deed back into my folder, slid my chair in, and turned to walk away. I wasn't running. I was walking away, leaving the chaos behind me for good. The restaurant was still buzzing, but it was a different kind of buzz now. A buzz of whispers, of glances, of pure, unadulterated shock. The next morning, I drove my newly repaired car to the lake house for the first time. The keys felt heavy in my hand, but not with a weight of responsibility, but with the weight of my own freedom. The house was everything I had imagined, quiet, serene, a blank slate. Sarah met me there with 2 steaming cups of coffee. She didn't ask about the family dinner. She didn't ask what happened. She just smiled and handed me a small, beautifully wrapped gift. It was a sign for the door. I unpeeled the paper and read the single word on the plaque: home. We sat on the porch, sipping coffee, the sun rising over the water. It was the calm after the storm, and it was a peace I had never known. For years I had been the silent support, the one who was always there, to pick up the pieces, to pay for the celebrations of others. Now, I was celebrating myself. They celebrated him every year. My birthday was just a day, but I had my quiet victory. I had a home, my own. I had Sarah, my chosen family, who saw my worth and gave me a gift without a single string attached. This whole experience taught me something invaluable. When they won't make room for you at their table, it's a sign that you were meant to build your own. What's a time you had to build your own table? Let me know in the comments below.